What's going on, y'all? Let's Be Real podcast, episode 13, I believe we're on. Um, man, look, we got a great show for you today. You know me as always, man. I'll be sipping on some wine. I know I ain't have it last week. I'm off my little cleanse, kind of, but we back at it, man. So here we go. I'm actually drinking today. It's going to be it's called Vale de Rosas. It's from Portugal. It's a Pinot Noir. Look, man, if y'all know me, you know me. I like my Cabernets. I like big, bold wines. This one's a little bit more balanced, um, but very balanced, very smooth, very fruit forward. Definitely a lot lighter than the wines I'm usually drinking. So it's a nice little switch up. But yeah, if you like something a little bit more balanced, smooth, and with that kind of fruit flavor at the beginning, I definitely would say something worth checking out. But yeah, man, look, we got a great show today, man. Obviously, as always, we're gonna touch on the NBA, some of the games from last night. Gonna touch on Thursday night, the Eagles and Commanders. Go over our top games from the week. Give you guys that watch of the week as far as that non kind of prime time level game that we think will be a great watch. And then rounding it out with our top five NFL teams heading into week 11. But first, man, what we're gonna start with is the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, if you could call it that. And so, man, look, not a great look. Not a great look. Was not a great fight, which is unfortunate. Obviously, they built it up. It was supposed to happen a few months ago. Ended up pushing it out. So I think a lot of people were excited to watch it, and I think they disappointed a lot of people with that fight. I was at a release party last night for a brand. Shout out to Wade on his precision brand being updated to a new luxurious brand. If y'all ain't checked that out, go check it out. But I was at that party last night. They had the fight on. We was watching that, man, and yeah, man, it's just wasn't a good watch. The fights before it were great. I think those fights before it very entertaining. And it's one thing, as I said it last night, man. I will give Jake Paul credit as much as I don't like him. What he has done as far as bringing these massive crowds and getting these big events and getting these undercard fights, of real fighters that will never, probably never have an audience that big or a fight that big. Giving them that opportunity is awesome. So shout out to him for that. But the main event, the Tyson and Jake fight, man, to me, what that looked like was two guys who basically it was a bank heist. They built this up and they walked into that ring, and it looked like right before they said, "Hey, man, let's both make sure we get out of here healthy, so we can go get a good night's sleep and go spend all this money we just made." And it's unfortunate because now I think that fight, whereas like some of the fights before, they looked like fights. This one didn't look like a fight. It looked like it was, like I said, just like a hey, we gonna get this money and get out healthy. And so again, it's unfortunate because I look at it now as far as moving forward, I don't know if he's going to have a fight that gets hyped up like this. I think this might be the last one, unless he fights a real boxer. Like, I know he called out, or Tank called him out. He said he was willing to fight Tank. He's called out Canelo. I don't know if that's, Canelo, or he's talking about Canelo's dad because he likes fighting 60-year-olds. But regardless, man, it's unless he fights a true fighter, which I don't think he'll do because we saw him do that one time and he got torn up. So, anything else I think now is it's not going to be that, which is unfortunate. Like I said, for before, those boxers that he's given those opportunities to, now that opportunity isn't as big as it was coming into this fight. And so, yeah, I just think it's not a good look for him. It's not a good look for the boxing that kind of events he does. And then, man, biggest loss of the night might go to Netflix for for the issues they had even streaming the fight. And man, look, that's also Netflix. This is kind of a big deal because they're having those issues, and they're supposed to be hosting 2 NFL games on Christmas. Now, as far as how those NFL games are going to do, even regardless of the Netflix issues, I don't know. NFL has usually not been on Christmas. That's usually been kind of reserved for the NBA, but they started kind of hopping in there, seeing what they can do. So it's definitely not as big as like Thanksgiving Day, right? And so who knows how that was going to go originally, but I think this was kind of telling as far as from a Netflix point of like, can you even handle big sporting events? And so, look, they got a kind of a dry run with this. We'll see what it looks like on Christmas. But I mean, if I'm a league and Netflix comes to me wanting to host one of my events now, I got to look at it. I got to think twice about it because of just how that played out. But yeah, man, to wrap it up, man, it was unfortunate, man. I really wish we could have seen Mike, you know, at least box some, especially watching those training videos leading up to the fight. That's not what I saw in the ring. And so I don't, again, it just seems like this was kind of set up as just a show and not really a boxing match. But anyways, man, we're gonna move on. We're gonna hit the NBA because we had the Lakers and Spurs last night. So we had, you know, the current GOAT versus what people are saying might be the future GOAT. And so that's the matchup between LeBron and Wemby. Man, game came down to the wire. LeBron obviously it was kind of a weird game for him because he didn't shoot poorly, but he didn't play great. And it's this. I think he's kind of in this mode with the Lakers where he just does whatever they need him to do. You know, he had a triple double again last night, fourth straight one, first time in his career he's ever done that, which is crazy to think is because he's it's what he does, But to never have four straight and a career that long is kind of crazy. But that's awesome. But again, man, he's just kind of fitting into that role of like, what do we need from me tonight? When it was Memphis and AD goes out, he has a 35-point triple double, takes over the glass, takes over the scoring. Last night, 15 points, I think, shot 50% from the field. But AD had a monster game. So it was LeBron kind of just orchestrating the entire offense, getting AD easy looks, getting Connect, Reeves, D'Lo, getting all them easy looks, kind of just running the offense. And I think it's tough for, kind of a role player to come in not knowing what his role is. For somebody like LeBron who can literally do everything, it's a great way for them to kind of play right now just because I love that they're running the ball through AD. I love that he's, one of the top guys in the league as far as early MVP power rankings. I think that's how they need to play to win. But then you always got that LeBron in the back pocket where it's like, Bron, man, if we might need 40 tonight, where he can go get you it. And so, I love kind of what JJ's done with the offense. I love JJ moving LeBron into that kind of hybrid role, just kind of where he's going to be running the offense regardless, at kind of from a point forward position. But knowing when to take over the games, knowing when to score. And from the other side, man, look, Wemby, man, it's boom or bust with him, man. He starts off the year, first 9 games, shooting 20% from three, and then on these last few games on a tear, hitting 23s over the last 3 games, which was something that I think I heard only Steph, Clay, and somebody else, but not very many people have done it. And it's a club of like exclusively some of the best shooters we've ever seen. And so when he gets it rolling, we talked about it, man. When he gets it rolling, he's going to be silly. It's going to be video game numbers, but I think he's going to be closer to that 20% from three because it's just not as polished part of his game right now. And we saw it. I think he shot 30% last night and taking, 12, 15 threes a game. If you're shooting 25, 30%, that's not going to cut it. And so, again, it's just that's an area where, obviously he's going to keep doing it because it looks like that's what it is. But when you talk about where he is kind of supposed to be, right? Coming in as the most hyped up draft pick, best prospect of all time. And with such a raw offensive game, you got to let him do what he's going to do. But at the same time, man, it's just I think it's a recipe, at least right now from the looks of it, recipe for him quite not meeting those expectations of, the Hakeem Olajuwon floor. If he's Hakeem, it's a failure. So we'll have to see, man. Again, I don't think it's end all be all. Obviously, hopefully we see him get better. But again, I think when you're talking about GOAT statuses and things like that, man, that's a lot to put on somebody who's so offensively raw, and we don't know, 7'6", we'll see what that looks like as far as health wise. But man, when he gets it going, he gets it going. And so, it's fun to watch him always. Even last night watching him, you see him standing next to LeBron and AD, and it's just like, it looks crazy, man. So, again, we'll see kind of how he progresses as far as his offense and what that'll look like. But man, speaking of another, international 7-footer, Embiid, and the Sixers finally got Embiid and PG back, and still losing. Look, Jared McCain looks great. Coming in, I thought he was going to be kind of one of those. To me, he was like a discount Tyrese Maxey, right? Like, he does a lot of the same things Tyrese does, smaller guard. And so I didn't see the reason for them picking him. But look, my man has been killing it, shooting the 3-ball, great, and living up to the higher draft pick that they took him at. And so good to see him balling, man. But Embiid, PG, they just can't get it going, and it's tough now because clearly Embiid is supposed to be your go-to guy. With Tyrese Maxey coming back in the fold, moves PG to third, but now you got to throw Jared McCain, who obviously he's going to be coming off the bench, but where does he kind of fall in line when he's in the game as far as pecking order? And so, PG having to kind of fit into this third, second, first option, just depending on when the time is again. It goes back to the LeBron thing, man. Not everybody's built where they can just kind of like, what do you need this night? I'm going to go do it. And so, I think these early struggles with them just trying to figure out how to play together, trying to figure out the role they all fit in, it's going to be tough. And it's, Embiid still doesn't look in rhythm. PG doesn't look in rhythm. And yeah, man, I can't see it getting better soon. The only thing that's going for them, man, is that, the East is terrible. They still only got 3 teams or 4 teams above 500, at 500 or above, I think. So again, it's going to get to a point where you dig yourself in too big of a hole, right? And Embiid not playing any back-to-backs also is going to keep throwing things out of whack as far as from a getting to kind of know each other on the court standpoint. But again, you can still salvage the season because of just how bad the East is. And so we'll see how that goes, man. But we're going to have to move into the NFL now, man. As y'all know, we're going to stay in Philly. Eagles, Commanders, Thursday night football. And it was a good game, man. It was obviously ugly most of the game, but it was a good, ugly game. And so from an Eagles standpoint, man, look, continued struggles in just the first quarter of football games, first half of football games. Washington's defense, I know, Dan Quinn's got them playing better, but, struggle all night for Eagles to score. Jalen didn't play great, had some good hits to AJ, Devontae, but yeah, man, it's just the offense still just doesn't look like it's clicking. And, thankfully we get bailed out because Saquon, who's kind of been the ultimate bailout machine for us this year, he breaks off 2 runs to just bust the game open at the end. But man, it was an ugly game from the Eagles. It didn't really, restore my full faith in how I feel about them moving forward and moving into the playoffs. I know the Commanders, good offensive team. They were in the lead for the division. I do love that we got the division lead now. We'll see if we can hold on to it. But yeah, man, it's just, again, shout out to Saquon and great pickup. I was against it originally, but he's really been kind of the Band-Aid we've needed almost every game when, it's looking like a game we could very easily lose. he seems to always make a play or break off a run like he did on Thursday, where, it's just basically saves us. So, man, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. On the other side of the football, though, Jaden, man, struggling. Has had a couple rough games now after that crazy start. I said a few weeks ago I thought that Caleb had basically locked in the MVP for Jaden with how he played, but Jaden, like, still, man, hasn't really taken a hold of it and owned it yet. So I still think, look, there's plenty of football left to play, and if he continues to struggle, and we talked about it with the Kingsbury offenses, man, the second half of the seasons from college to the pros, it just seems like those offenses die out. And, it didn't look good. It looks like Jaden's fallen off of a lot of those throws. That was one of the big things I noticed watching that game, was it almost seemed like those ribs are bothering him and he does not want to take a hit. And he's again, fallen off a lot of the throws, which, he's skipping them to the receivers, and it's just he's not as accurate as he was before because of that. And so, we'll see how healthy he can get with those ribs and maybe, get back to how he was playing before. And we'll see if Kingsbury can get that offense rolling and do something that he's not known to do, as far as, having his offense rolling in the second half of the season. But coming out of it, man, again, I think biggest thing for me, obviously because I'm an Eagles fan, I'm going to lean a little bit more to the Eagles with this, but just my overall trust in the Eagles. And it's just, I trust them more than last year, but I can't really fully believe in a team that has Sirianni as the head coach. I said it last episode, I think he's primed to make a decision in the playoffs that blows the game for us and effectively ends his job there. But again, man, it's just offensive struggles, being bailed out by Saquon regularly. It just seems like I trust them as much as I can, but I wouldn't put any substantial amount of money or anything on them as far as if we get to the playoffs that they can win a round or two. Just because, again, between Sirianni and just that offense not looking great for long stretches, and just the inability to put up points in the fourth quarter or first quarter, just, yeah, it's not looking good for me. But I mean, it's part of it right now. You got to work through it. A win is a win. Ahead in the division is a win. See if we can hold on to it, and kind of go from there. But now we'll move ahead, man. Let's look ahead to these Week 11 games and just the top games of the week. We got some good ones. We got some bad ones, but we got some good ones, and so we're going to go into that. And look, staying in Pennsylvania, we're going to talk about the Ravens and the Steelers, man. So this one's interesting because obviously that Ravens secondary has been abysmal. Lamar playing in an MVP kind of level, but has had struggles against the Steelers. And then Russ, man, coming into the game, looking better, but he's got his struggles. So when we look at it, man, obviously this is just going to come down to Steelers offense versus Ravens defense. And I think when you look at the Steelers and that offense with Russ now at the helm, one of the big things with him has been his success rate, which, down by down, how he's graded out, very low. But because, he's made these big plays to Pickens, Mike Williams, their offense is scoring 30 a game. And so I think just with that low success rate, I think even with that, it almost plays into the Steelers' favor with this because they're so boom or bust on those big-time plays with Russ. And that Ravens secondary is so bad that I can see him getting 2 or 3 just, blow open plays where either Pickens or Williams is running, 60 yards to the end zone. And so, um, yeah, it's just I think this kind of defense is perfect for the kind of offense Russell Wilson is playing right now, which is very, like I said, not great on a down to down basis, but very big play oriented. And so, man, I can see the Steelers really running it up on them. And then on the other side, like I said, Lamar struggles against the Steelers, and that defense is as good as ever with TJ over there. You know, they're they've been playing big time. And so when you look at just Lamar in the past as a starter against the Steelers, man, 1-3, 4-10 touchdown to interception or touchdown to turnover ratio, and a 66 passer rating, which is the worst of his career versus any team. So Tomlin's got something over there as far as just a little bit of, extra something for Lamar and able to game plan for him really well as just having the pieces to do it. And so I think this is a game where we may see Lamar struggle. And if Lamar struggles, I mean, like I said, with Russ being able to make some big plays against that defense, the Ravens have shown just a propensity over this season so far, that if they get a touchdown, 7-10 points down, Derrick Henry is no longer a part of the game plan. I mean, he'll get a run here or there, but they almost exclusively go to just Lamar in that passing game, and they're quick to abandon the run, which is crazy to me because it's their best shot to win. And I especially think it's their best shot to win against this Steelers team. You really got to slow the game, make it a possession game, let Derrick Henry go to work, Lamar make a couple plays here and there. But I think this needs to be a Derrick Henry game from the start. And it can't be a go away from Derrick Henry when you get down 1 or 2 scores. And so, also, man, when you look at the Ravens from a standpoint of like their season outlook, Lamar's season outlook, this is almost a must win game for them. I would say this is as close to a must win without being like eliminated as you can have, because I don't think any of us doubt that they're going to get to the playoffs. But when you think about a loss here, okay, now they're likely going to lose the division to the Steelers, which means from a playoff standpoint, you're on the road. So you're not going to have home field. We already know the struggles that, Lamar and this Ravens have had in the playoffs period, but having to go 4 games all on the road, just I can't see them being able to do that and get into the Super Bowl, which is obviously their goal. And from an individual standpoint, man, you lose the division. I can't see, the MVP voters have had a very kind of track record of not giving the MVP to wild card teams, except I think it's happened once in recent memory. It was Peyton Manning, whose team had the second best record in the league. But outside of that, typically you have to be on one of these 1-2 seeds in the playoffs to get an MVP. And especially, I can't see how you can be the MVP of the league and a wild card team. Again, outside of you having just a monster record, which they won't have, even if they win out, their record isn't going to be something crazy. And so, again, man, from an individual standpoint, I know Lamar doesn't really care about the MVPs. He'd probably never have another MVP in his career if he could win some Super Bowls. But, it's something we got to talk about because it's part of the league. The MVP is, a talking point. And so, obviously, I think that's out for them if they lose this, because I can't see them winning that division. And I think they're pretty much done as far as Super Bowl chances if they lose this, because I can't see them going on the road, winning multiple games on the road in the playoffs. And so, again, big win needed for the Ravens here. And again, it's tough for me to see them winning it. But again, man, we've talked about it before. They're so dangerous, you never know. They could come out and put up 40 on you. I can't see it against the Steelers defense, but they are scary like that. So, again, I think this is a tough spot for the Ravens because I think they are going to lose this one. And I think it's going to put a bow on the rest of their season, barring a Steelers collapse. And so Moving over to the NFC, man, let's talk about Packers and Bears. This game, man, look, division game. Um, a lot of these division games for the Bears have been backloaded. And for the Packers side of this, man, I think the biggest thing for them is, and the biggest question mark they're going to have is, can Jordan Love just play a clean game? Because this is a game where the Packers should come in, roll the Bears. The Bears are dealing with a lot of turmoil. They haven't looked great these last few games. And the Packers have looked decent outside of, these Jordan Love turnovers. And the only way I can see them losing this is, I mean, outside of just a resurgence from the Bears, is Jordan Love giving them opportunities that they shouldn't have. I think if the Packers play a clean game here, it should be, oh, let's walk in, walk out with a dub. But Jordan Love, again, he's got just that reputation of throwing a couple up for grabs, or just kind of head scratching throws that can absolutely keep a team in it. And so, man, that's going to be the biggest thing for them is Jordan Love needs to play a clean game. I think if he does that, they got a good shot of winning this. But again, man, for a Bears team that has very little momentum, the last thing you want to do is give it to them. And so, speaking of that Bears team, man, for them, it's a lot of just what's this going to look like as far as bouncing back. Fired their OC. Obviously, Eberflus has got to be feeling the hot seat right now. He knows his time is probably coming to an end. And so, can Caleb and the new OC, can they kind of vibe in and start really, can he get into making things easy for Caleb? Because right now, a lot of this Caleb stuff, I know he's taking sacks, which you could put some of that on the O-line. Some of it's on him as well, just holding the ball too long. It looks like he's not really trusting his throws, trusting his reads, which was a knock on him in college. And so, do I think that's going to be a staple of his career? No, I still think he's going to be an incredible quarterback. But right now, man, he's going through the struggles of being a rookie QB. And so, with the new OC coming in, it's really just got to be making it easy on him, giving him easy reads, getting sweat the ball, or not sweat. They're running back. Goodness gracious. Man, Eagles last year. Anyways, but getting the running game going and then making it easy for Caleb. And again, man, with these, obviously, I'm sure a lot of y'all heard all the rumors. I think we touched on the last episode as far as the, some guys going into the front office and to the coaches and saying they want to bench Caleb for Badgett. Come to find out, that's the radio show that reported that was coming directly from Badgett's father, who has been going to radios in Chicago saying, oh, these guys want Badgett to play. And first of all, one, I get it as a dad that you want you want to see your child, out there on the field competing and everything. But if I'm the Bears, if this is true, what's come out now is that Badgett's dad is going out kind of stirring up this controversy at radio shows to get his son some time. I would cut him. His son would be cut because I can't have that. That's a distraction. Look, you have Caleb Williams. You are locked into Caleb Williams. Badgett is not the future. Caleb is. And if there needs to be collateral damage to just keep Caleb's mental and all that going and keep him in a good space, that's what's got to happen. So I would cut Badgett the second I found out that if those rumors are true. It also came out that a lot of the vets, a lot of those offensive guys are rocking with Caleb. But still, it's controversy now. There is controversy. And so now it's about, how Caleb responds. I know we've seen him at, the press conferences, at the microphone, all the right answers you're looking for. But we don't, you can say the right answers, but when it comes to being on the field and maybe pressing a little bit more, that might be, what we see. And so, again, it's more controversy, more just things around Caleb where, again, I wouldn't want him dealing with that if I'm in the front office. That's why I would make the move, just cutting, because I don't want to have to deal with a family member stirring up controversy in my locker room for my rookie QB who's already going through struggles. But again, man, it's just, I think from the Bears' point of view, you got to start making things easy for Caleb. And Caleb really just needs to start trusting those throws. But staying in the NFC, man, we're going to move over. So Seahawks and Niners. This is another game. Huge playoff implications as far as in the standings right now. Obviously, Seahawks sitting at the bottom of the division. I think one win back of the Niners, one or two losses back of them. But Niners in second place, chance to move up into, stay in second place, but be in a tie as far as win-loss column with the Cardinals, or win column with the Cardinals. And so, again, big spot for the Niners, man. We're going to see, obviously, each game kind of matters now in that NFC West. All of their, because each team is in it. Like I said, the Seahawks are in last place, 2 wins behind the Cardinals in first. Now, Cardinals already got a win over the Niners. They're going to play once more. And, the Seahawks, again, we've talked about it, man. When they're healthy, that offense has a lot of talent, and Geno can really get going. He's struggled against the Niners. But all it takes is one really good week where Geno is slinging it, and, that Seahawks offense can get going. And so from the Niners, again, I think they're in a similar situation with Baltimore. Like, this is almost a must win. And outside of that, even just they got to look good in a win, because they haven't looked great. Purdy's been playing all right, but it hasn't been really rolling. They've had some, we talked about the sideline little controversy dust up with Debo and the long snapper and the kicker. And so this is just a game where they need to come out and remind people they're the Niners. You got CMC back. You're mostly healthy on that offense now. And again, this is a game where, you lose this, and now you're sitting down there with the Rams, maybe, depending on what they do this week. And the division can get away from you. And with them, their remaining schedule, I mean, they got games against the Packers, Bills. You got the Rams again, the Dolphins, who all of a sudden maybe are looking a little bit better now with Tua back and those weapons. And then you got the Lions and the Cardinals. You got one more game against the Cardinals. But those are, how many did I name? 6 losable games on your calendar and on your schedule moving forward. And so the division can really get away from you. The playoffs, I think, can get away from you. Obviously, the NFC, man, it's as where the AFC is kind of opening those wild card spots. The NFC is, it's a lot can happen over there. And so, again, I think this is a game that the 49ers really need to come out. They need the win, obviously, just for standings in the division purposes. But it's also a game where they need to come out, win, and look good in, because right now they're not that team. If I'm a playoff team in the NFC, I'm not scared of playing the Niners. Where, for the last few years, that's not the case. The Niners would probably be the team I would last want to play in the NFC. And now if I'm, they're probably one of the few teams I would like to play if I'm in the NFC. So, again, man, the Niners, we need to see something from them. And then, man, speaking of the team we need to see something from, the Bengals. They're playing the Chargers, another game that's got huge playoff implications. Obviously, the Chargers right now second in the division, but they're fully like in that wild card hunt at 6-3 right now. And the Bengals, again, defense is terrible. The offense is a monster on most weeks, and they're still in the hunt. They got 4 wins. They can still sneak into the playoffs, and we've seen what they can do from a wild card spot. They went to the Super Bowl from there, and so, with an offense like that, again, defense is going to be tough, but with an offense like that, if they get in the playoffs, that means they're rolling. And, the last thing you want to see on the other side of the field, if you're an AFC team, is the Bengals with a rolling offense, because you are going to have to outscore them. And so, again, man, I think it's, can that Bengals offense just do enough against the Chargers defense? This looks great. And the Chargers team as a whole, just, shout out to Jim Harbaugh, because, look, there wasn't a ton of, as far as the defense, not a lot of turnover there. And they went from being one of the worst defenses last year to, I think they're the number 1 ranked defense right now, at least scoring defense, where with not a lot of personnel change. And so, credit to Jim Harbaugh. He really came in there and he's got them playing well. They're a full on typical Jim Harbaugh team. They lean heavy into the run, tough defense, and it reminds me a lot of those Niner teams he used to have. But he's got an upgraded quarterback. Look, nothing against Colin Kaepernick when he was playing there. He was great, got to Super Bowls, but Justin Herbert, better thrower of the ball, maybe not as dynamic of a runner as Colin was, but still very able to run and make plays with his legs. And I wish they would have gone out and gotten some more help on the outside. Like I said, I thought Mike Williams would have been a great person to bring back for them. But again, they play punch you in the face football, and so they're going to be a tough out. Again, if they're a team, if you know they sneak into one of those wild card spots and end up getting in the playoffs, it's not a team you want to play. A Jim Harbaugh team against that defense is just not a team you want to play. And so, again, big for both teams. We're getting to a point in the year where it's like, wins matter. I mean, granted, wins always matter, but now it's like there's really like it. You're looking at seeding. You're looking at where we're going to be. Can we get to that wild card spot? And this is just one of those games where it's big for both teams. And then staying in the AFC, but moving into a game that's it's not big for both teams as far as from a standings perspective, but massive for both teams as far as just what can come out of it, right? And we're going to talk last one, Chiefs and Bills, probably the game of the week. We got Mahomes, Josh Allen. Look, anytime these two teams link up and those two guys are at quarterback, you're in for a game. And yeah, man, obviously Chiefs still chasing that undefeated season. I think if there was ever a game, I talked about it last episode, is where it's if you're the Chiefs, do you kind of, as the front office coaching staff, are you kind of in the back of your mind hoping you drop a game just so it's, you're not in week 17 going for an undefeated season? And I think this is the game. I think this is the game where if you're going to drop one, you hope it's this one. Because we've already seen it in the past. The Bills can beat the Chiefs in the regular season, and the outcome in the playoff is always the same. It's Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Bills out early. And so I don't think the Chiefs need this one as far as from a mental standpoint of like, we look at like the Ravens and Steelers, or Ravens and Chiefs earlier, where it's like, Ravens need to show they can beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, like, it's a big game for them. This one, I'm just like, I don't think it matters for either team mentally. Like, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs in the regular season. They know they can do that, but they haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs, so none of this in the regular season matters. And the Chiefs have shown that they can lose to the Bills, and it doesn't matter in the playoffs. They know where they're going. So really for this one, it's more so, and again, neither team is really going to be, from a standings point in their division, it's not really a big game. Now, from a standpoint of who gets the 1 seed, it's huge because Chiefs beat the Bills. They're really the only threat as far as, I mean, depending on what you think of the Steelers, but really the only other threat to the Chiefs as far as that 1 seed in the AFC. If the Chiefs win this game, I mean, they put such a cushion ahead of them and the Bills, who would arguably probably be the 2 seed, that it's it's a game where you'd love to win because it means you can. If you find a loss somewhere, wouldn't really matter as far as the Bills chasing you down, because you could rest some guys and still have the 1 seed locked up probably in week 17. And so huge for the Chiefs, for the Bills, as far as the standpoint of who gets that 1 seed. But even still, if the Chiefs were to lose this one, there's not a lot of losable games that I don't think there's a lot of losable games for the Chiefs on their schedule moving forward. And the Bills would have to, almost run the table to ever chase them down. But yeah, so if I'm the Chiefs, if there is a game I want to lose, it's probably this one, or honestly, just some weird game, maybe like when you play the Broncos again. those would be my top two contenders for like when you're gonna lose your first. And so big thing for them right now is obviously Harrison Butker announcement that he's going to get surgery on his knee, so they're going to be without Butker, which, off the field, say what you want about him. On the field, probably the best kicker in the league, or on the short list of people who have that shot at that title. And so, that's big for them because we've seen a lot this year. They're willing to play less aggressive because they know, basically inside of 60 yards, we're going to get 3. And so with him out, how does that change their offensive game plan? Do they get more aggressive? Do they stay very conservative? They're one of the most conservative teams when it comes to kicking field goals or going for it on 4th down. And so what does that look like for them? Personally, I love it. I think, being more aggressive with Patrick Mahomes is never a bad thing. And from a standpoint of the rest of the league, man, if the Chiefs get more aggressive and they see that they can be more aggressive and be successful at it regularly, just unlocks a whole different area of the Chiefs. And for the Bills, man, look, Bills, it's a tough game for them. Look, obviously you got Josh Allen, which any game you have Josh Allen, you can be dynamic and you can put up points. But they're struggling as far as with some injuries on the defensive side of the football, or the offensive side of the football. You got Keon Coleman out. You got Dalton Kincaid out. You have Amari Cooper, who's questionable. And, when you look at kind of where the Chiefs have struggled defensively, it's been against tight ends. Well, now you don't have to worry about Dalton Kincaid. And it's been against that second receiver because ever since Watson, I think, their second corner, whoever it was, great cornerback. Ever since that second cornerback they have went out with that with a broken ankle, that's been an area where you can expose the Chiefs. And that would likely be a Keon Coleman, maybe a Shakir. So if you're without Amari and Keon, that's a tough ask for that offense because you just don't have the pieces that you would normally have to really take advantage of that Chiefs defense that's been great. And so again, it'll be interesting to see. I think the Chiefs do end up pulling this one out. Again, the further we get, it's going to be tough kind of balancing, do we go for the undefeated season? Do we worry about the playoffs, especially because they get to that? I think they need a loss before that Steelers game because that Steelers game on Christmas, that's the rest game. And also, I'm sure the league, the NFL would hate to see that, but it's part of it. You gave the Chiefs 3 games in 10 days. They played a week before Christmas, then 4 days later, I think, play the Christmas Day game, and then 6 days later play again. And so 3 games in 10 days, bad scheduling by the NFL. Again, I think this is why I know the NFL is going for real estate and trying to get as many, big time games like a Christmas Day that they can. But this is where you're going to kind of run into the fact if you have these things, you're going to have poor scheduling. And if you have poor scheduling, you're going to have teams where it's like I said, if the Chiefs have a loss, I would say rest everybody on that game. And then now if you're the NFL, you don't got to worry about Netflix streaming because no one's going to be watching that game. And now it's like, okay, well, now you might lose that game right back to that day, right back to the NBA. So again, I think if you're the Chiefs, that's your dream scenario. You lose one before that Christmas game, you rest everybody that Steelers game, you'll have the 1 seed locked up at that point, and then week 18, maybe you play them some, maybe you don't. You'll have the bye. I would almost lean towards playing them like a half or even the full game on that week 18 because you have that bye week going into the playoffs. But again, huge game, and I think it's going to be an exciting game. And so lastly, we're going to follow it up with the as far as the games go, who we're going to watch, what's the good watch of this week. And you know me, usually I just love finding games where it's two great offenses, maybe some bad defenses because I just love scoring. This one's a little bit different. I'm going to go Falcons and Broncos. So not that big primetime game, but big as far as, again, like seeding and playoff implications because the Falcons, they need to really start pulling away from the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks have not been healthy. Granted, they have the tiebreaker, but they're still not out of it. The Bucks aren't, and they're going to have Mike Evans coming back, and they haven't looked bad even without Mike Evans. So, can the Bucks maybe go on a tear here? And the Falcons, they've shown that they can be up and down all year, and you're going against the Broncos, who look coming into the year, I didn't think they were going to be very good, but that defense is spectacular, and so that this is a game I can see the Falcons, not being able to get the offense going. And if they can't get the offense going, I trust Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton enough that they're going to put up just enough points to win, maybe 17 points. And the Falcons just have a tough time scoring, maybe only put up 10 or 13. And so I think this is going to be a really good game as far as you're going to see what we think could be a great offense and a very talented offense with a defense that has shown it's one of the best in the league with probably the best cornerback in the league. And then on the other side, Falcons' terrible defense against a team whose offense is just kind of very simplistic and not going to blow you away with anything, and it's going to kind of do whatever it needs to do. So I would say that's going to be a great watch. I know that'll be a game that I'm going to have tuned in on some screen. Some screen that one's going to be on. And we're going to wrap up here, y'all, like we always do. Top 5 teams going into the week. And so starting off, number 1, y'all already know, Chiefs, they're undefeated. What do you want me to say? They're undefeated. They've shown that they can beat you literally any way. Said, you need the offense to go out and score 30? Okay, they've got to win like that this year. You need the defense to hold somebody to 10 points? Okay, they've got to win like that this year. You need a massive special team. You need the special teams to come through and make a play. They've got to win like that this year. They can beat any team anyway, just any week. They have shown that they can, and I think they're the only team in the league that can do this, is they can win any way you can win an NFL game. I don't think any other team in the league can do that. And so, obviously, they stay at number 1, undefeated. Number 2, look, the Lions. Terrible week last week, but I talked about it on the last episode. I love the fact that Jared Goff can throw 5 interceptions and you can find a way to win. That gives just a ton of credit to a defense that has looked shaky since Hutch has gone out. They went out, made a move for a pass rusher, which I like. And so granted, against the Texans, who haven't looked great this year, but still a playoff team. And so I got to keep them at number 2. Number 3, we're going to go with the Bills. Again, I don't think they're going to win this week, so they're probably going to drop out of this. But look, Josh Allen, they got him some help on the outside with Amari. Once they get healthy, I think they're a team that's, one of the top teams in the league. And again, outside of the Chiefs, I think they can beat anybody in a playoff game. And so got them there. 4, Eagles. And this is where it's tough because I know earlier I was saying I don't really trust them. But as of right now, with Saquon covering up how bad we are offensively at times, I think there's probably 5 teams, right? That 5 teams that I could put 4 and 5. And so, they got the win, took the division lead. I think that counts for something. And so got them at 4. And then 5, look, I'm going with the Chargers. Look, that defense, that coach, that quarterback, again, there's probably 4 other teams you could put in this spot, but that's who I'm going to go with. I just look at their team as a whole, and I think that I would not want to play them in the playoffs. And so I'm going to go Chargers at 5. And that's going to wrap us up for this week, y'all. Look, appreciate all y'all as always. Go ahead, like, subscribe, follow us. We're on social media. watch us on YouTube, on Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts, wherever y'all like to listen, watch. Please go on there, like, comment, engage. Like I said, we're on social media, Instagram, TikTok. Hop on there, man. And like I said, I appreciate y'all.